Welcome to Love Lies Chronicles.
I'd love to know what you think. Every comment helps me make the next story better. Subscribe to stay tuned. Some marriages end with a bang. Others end with a spreadsheet. Mine ended when my wife pulled out a binder at game night and told 8 people she'd been rating my performance as a husband on a 10-point scale for the past 3 weeks. We were hosting at our place in Zilker for couples we'd known since moving to Austin 2 years ago. Pizza and board games, the kind of casual Saturday that should have been forgettable. Instead, it became the night I discovered my wife had been running our marriage like a quarterly business review. The evening started normally enough. We were halfway through code names when someone suggested a break. People refilled drinks and scattered around our living room. That's when the conversation shifted to relationships and marriage the way it always does after a few beers. Rachel made a joke about training husbands like dogs. Everyone laughed. Then Whitney said something that made my stomach drop. Actually, I've been doing something similar. She had this excited look on her face as she walked to our home office. When she came back holding a navy blue binder, I felt the first real prickle of unease. I've been conducting daily performance reviews of Rob as a husband, she announced, setting the binder on the coffee table like she was presenting a quarterly report. 3 weeks of data so far. The room went quiet. Someone laughed nervously, clearly thinking it was a joke. It wasn't. Whitney opened the binder. Inside were pages of handwritten notes, color-coded charts, and what looked like spreadsheets. She explained her system with genuine enthusiasm. Daily ratings on a 1 to 10 scale across 5 categories. Emotional availability, household contribution, communication quality, romance and affection, overall partnership. Written notes on areas for improvement. Weekly averages calculated. 3-week trend analysis. So Tuesday, Rob scored a 4 out of 10 on emotional availability because when I was telling him about my frustrating meeting, he was clearly checking his phone, she said, pointing to a specific entry. Rachel's eyes went wide. Wait, you're serious? You actually wrote this down? Of course. How else can you track improvement? Look, Wednesday he got a 6 on household contribution, which was better, but he left the dishwasher half-loaded. That's a common pattern I'm seeing. She flipped through pages like she was presenting a case study. The room's laughter had died completely. People were exchanging glances. I sat frozen, watching my wife share intimate details of our marriage like she was explaining a project timeline. His romance score has been consistently low, Whitney continued. Last week's average was 4.2. I've documented specific instances. Forgot to kiss me goodbye on Monday. Didn't notice my new haircut on Thursday. Fell asleep during our scheduled conversation time on Sunday. She pulled out her phone and showed people a color-coded spreadsheet. Several people leaned in to look. I couldn't tell if they were fascinated or horrified. The real issue is his responsiveness to feedback, Whitney said. I've been leaving daily review summaries on his pillow each night, and I'm not seeing the growth curve I'd expect. His 3-week average is only 5.7 out of 10. That's barely acceptable. Brandon, one of the other husbands, cleared his throat. This seems kind of personal to share. Whitney looked genuinely confused by the comment. Why? We share everything else about our relationships. Besides, if Rob wants to improve, transparency and accountability are essential. That's basic management theory. I couldn't stay silent anymore. Can I see that? Whitney handed me the binder, looking pleased that I was finally engaging with her process. I flipped through it slowly while everyone watched. Page after page of my failures, neatly documented and categorized. Then I found one specific entry that made everything clear. This is interesting, I said, keeping my voice calm. March 15th. You gave me a 3 out of 10 for emotional availability because I was distracted and unavailable during your story about work. Whitney nodded. Right. You weren't really listening. March 15th was the day I found out my team was being downsized. I was trying to process whether I'd have a job, but you never asked why I seemed distant. You just wrote down that I failed. The room went very quiet. I turned to another page. And here, March 22nd, a 4 for household contribution because I left dishes in the sink. That was the night I worked until midnight fixing the leak under our bathroom sink that you'd been complaining about for 2 weeks. But I guess that doesn't count because it wasn't on your checklist. Whitney's face flushed. You're being defensive. This is exactly why you score low on receptiveness to feedback. Something cold and clear settled in my chest. Not anger. Not embarrassment. Recognition. I just watched my wife perform for an audience, using our marriage as her material. And when I pointed out the context she'd ignored, she told me I was the problem. People started making excuses to leave within minutes. Brandon pulled me aside at the door. "Man, that was intense. You good?" "I'm learning a lot about my marriage tonight," I told him. After everyone left, Whitney approached me in the kitchen where I was loading the dishwasher. She seemed completely unbothered by what had just happened. "I think that went well." Rachel said she might try something similar with Brandon. I stopped loading and looked at her. "You think humiliating me in front of our friends went well?" "I didn't humiliate you. I shared our system. If you feel humiliated, that's about your own insecurity, not my actions." "Did you ask me if I was comfortable with you sharing detailed critiques of me with 8 people? Whitney crossed her arms. "I don't need permission to discuss my own marriage. Besides, they're our friends. And honestly, their feedback might help you understand why your scores are low. Their feedback on my performance as your husband. See, this is why your communication score has been averaging 5.2. You're making this adversarial instead of seeing it as an opportunity for growth." I felt something shift in that moment. A decision forming that I hadn't consciously made yet. "I need you to sleep in the guest room tonight." "That seems like an overreaction." "I need space to think." Whitney looked irritated. "Fine, but this is exactly the kind of avoidance behavior that's holding you back. I'm documenting this conversation, by the way. Defensiveness, 9 out of 10. She grabbed her pillow and left. I stood in our kitchen, surrounded by the remnants of a game night that had revealed more than any performance review ever could. My wife saw our marriage as a system to optimize, and I was the underperforming component. The next morning, Whitney left early for spin class. I sat alone with my coffee and a growing sense of clarity. The binder was still on the coffee table. I opened it and really read it this time. 21 days of detailed entries. Handwritten comments in the margins. Highlighted critical incidents. Action items for me to complete. Her signature at the bottom of each day's review, like she was a manager signing off on an employee evaluation. March 8th. Rob's greeting when arriving home was perfunctory. Energy, 3 out of 10. Need to see more enthusiasm and engagement with my day. March 12th. Date night conversation revealed Rob has opinions that differ from mine on the downtown development project. Alignment, 4 out of 10. Concerning lack of partnership mentality. March 18th. Rob suggested we skip my friend Melissa's birthday dinner because he was tired. Prioritization of my social needs, 2 out of 10. Unacceptable. Every page was like this. My humanity reduced to numbers. My reasons ignored in favor of ratings. I opened our shared laptop. Recent documents included files with names like Rob Performance Metrics Q1 and Husband Management Strategies and Marriage Optimization Plan 2024. I clicked on the Google document. It showed 7 viewers. She'd shared my performance reviews with her friends. There were comments in the margins. Melissa had written, "Oh my God, the dishwasher thing. Brandon does this too." Rachel commented, "You're so organized. I should try this." Amanda asked, "Have you considered implementing a reward system for scores above 8? My hands went numb. She hadn't just documented my failures. She'd crowdsourced feedback on how to fix me. I started remembering the past 3 weeks with new clarity. The notes on my pillow that I'd thought were sweet reminders. The strange specific questions I'd assumed were attempts at better communication. The photos she'd taken of dishes left out, shoes by the door, the way I'd folded laundry. I'd thought she was being passive-aggressive. She'd been documenting evidence. I checked her social media. Instagram, 2 weeks ago. Implementing some new organizational systems at home. Accountability creates growth. With a chart emoji and sparkles. People had asked what she meant. She'd replied, "DM me. Happy to share my framework." Facebook, 10 days ago. Sometimes you have to treat your husband like an employee who needs a performance improvement plan. 47 likes. 23 comments, mostly laughing and agreeing. Twitter, a week ago. A whole thread about applying corporate performance management to personal relationships. The problem with modern marriage is lack of metrics and accountability. If you can't measure it, you can't improve it. Applies to husbands too. Over 2,000 likes. She hadn't been evaluating me privately. She'd been building a public brand around managing her deficient husband. I sat there in our living room, staring at the screen, feeling something I hadn't felt in 4 years of marriage. absolute clarity about what I needed to do. I picked up my phone and searched for divorce attorneys in Austin. Monday afternoon, I walked into an office building on Congress Avenue downtown. The law firm was called Harrison and Associates, Family Law. The receptionist was professional and discreet. Within an hour, I was sitting across from Margaret Harrison, a sharp-eyed woman in her 50s. "What brings you in today?" she asked. I pulled out my phone and showed her photos I'd taken. Pages from the binder. Screenshots of social media posts. The shared Google Doc with comments from her friends. My wife has been conducting performance reviews of me as a husband. She documented 3 weeks of my failures, graded me daily, and shared it all with our friends and on social media. When I objected, she told me I was being defensive. Margaret studied the images carefully. "This is very thorough documentation. How long have you been married?" "For years. No kids. We own a house together in Zilker. Joint accounts, some shared debt." "Have you tried counseling?" "You can't counsel someone into seeing you as a human being instead of a project to optimize." She's shown me exactly who she is. Someone who thinks I'm a set of metrics to manage. I believe her. Margaret smiled slightly. "Fair point. Texas is a no-fault divorce state, which works in your favor. With no children and a relatively short marriage, this should be straightforward. Community property will be divided. Given your evidence of her behavior, you have strong documentation if she tries to contest." We discussed timelines. 60 to 90 days for uncontested divorce. Financial splits. The house would need to be sold. She told me to keep everything Whitney created as evidence. "I'll have papers ready by Friday," Margaret said. My advice: act normal this week. Don't tip your hand. Let her think everything is fine. She'll probably keep leaving reviews on my pillow. Good. More evidence. Save every single one. That evening, I came home to find Whitney cooking dinner. She was upbeat, almost cheerful. "I've been thinking about our conversation Saturday night," she said, stirring pasta sauce. "I understand you felt exposed, so I've decided to make your reviews private going forward. I removed you from the Google Doc sharing." "I appreciate that," I said, "but I'm keeping the system. It's been really helpful for me to see patterns. And honestly, your scores are improving this week. Sunday you got a 7 on emotional availability." "That's good to hear." She smiled like I'd finally understood. Like removing me from a document where she'd shared my failures with strangers was a generous compromise. She still didn't see what she'd done wrong. Tuesday evening, I found a new review on my pillow. Monday review. Overall, 6.5 out of 10. Emotional availability, 7 out of 10. Improvement noted. Keep it up. Household, 6 out of 10. Forgot to take out recycling. Communication, 7 out of 10. Good active listening during dinner. Romance, 5 out of 10. No spontaneous affection shown. Partnership, 7 out of 10. Agreed with my suggestion for weekend plans. Notes: seeing positive momentum. Continue current effort level. Remember, consistency is key to maintaining scores above 7. I took a photo of it. Added it to a folder on my phone labeled Evidence. Wednesday evening, Whitney announced a new addition to her system. So I've been thinking, all critique and no positive reinforcement isn't great management. Starting this week, any day you average above 8, you get to pick the movie for movie night. Above 9, I'll plan a date night around something you want to do. Like a gold star chart, I said. Exactly. Gamification increases engagement. I read about it in a leadership book. Sounds great. Inside, I was thinking about how she'd just described our marriage like a mobile app trying to increase user retention. Later that evening, I saw her updating the review system on her laptop. She'd created a new tab in her spreadsheet. Reward tracking. She was documenting which rewards I'd earned, which I hadn't, and calculating the optimal reward to improvement ratio. She noticed me watching. I'm refining the methodology. I think the reward system needs its own metrics to measure effectiveness. Makes sense, I said. She smiled, encouraged by my response. She had no idea I was documenting her documentation. Thursday evening, I overheard her on the phone with Melissa. "No, he's been much better this week. I think the public accountability actually helped. Sometimes men need external pressure to change." "I know, right? I'm thinking about writing a blog post about the system." "Yeah, how I saved my marriage through performance management or something. I genuinely think this could help other women." Friday afternoon, Margaret texted me. "Paper's ready. Can you come by at 4? I went straight from work. Signed where she indicated. took the manila envelope, drove home with it sitting on the passenger seat like a ticking bomb. Whitney had made my favorite dinner. She was in a great mood, talking about my Week 3 performance summary showing an 11% improvement over Week 1. "I'm proud of you for being receptive to feedback," she said. "I know it was hard at first, but growth is uncomfortable, right? I need to talk to you about something." Of course, this is actually perfect timing. I wanted to discuss Q2 goals for us. Q2 goals. For the marriage. Second quarter. I'm thinking we should focus on romance and communication since those are your lowest scoring categories. I reached into my bag and pulled out the envelope. "I have something for you to review." Her face lit up. "Did you make a self-improvement plan?" That's exactly the kind of initiative I was hoping to see. I slid the envelope across the table. "It's a different kind of document." She opened it, pulled out the divorce papers. Her face went completely blank. 5 seconds of absolute silence. "Is this a joke?" "It's not. This is insane. This is completely insane. I'm filing on Monday." She stood up so fast her chair scraped against the floor. "Over the performance reviews. That's what this is about. This is about you treating me like an employee instead of a husband. About you documenting my failures and sharing them with friends. About you gamifying our marriage and posting about it on social media. I was trying to help us. I was trying to make us better. You were trying to manage me. There's a difference." Whitney's face shifted. "Okay, maybe I went too far with sharing it at game night. But divorce? That's nuclear. You created a Google Doc shared with 7 people detailing my deficiencies as a husband. You posted on Twitter about applying corporate performance management to me. You were planning to blog about it." Her face went white. "You went through my computer?" "Our shared computer, where you left documents open with my name in the title. If you had just communicated that you were uncomfortable, we could have adjusted the system. I told you Saturday night I felt humiliated. You told me I was being defensive. Because you were. You wouldn't even engage with the feedback. The feedback was that I'm a 5.7 out of 10 husband based on whether I noticed your haircut." She switched tactics. "This is exactly why your communication scores were low. You never told me you had a problem with the reviews until Saturday. I didn't know you were doing reviews until Saturday. I left them on your pillow every night for 3 weeks. You left notes. You didn't tell me you were maintaining a binder grading my performance and sharing it with the internet." Whitney started crying. Real tears this time, not tactical ones. "I cannot believe you went behind my back to a lawyer. While I was here trying to improve our marriage, you were planning to end it. You were planning to blog about managing your defective husband. I was protecting myself. Please." Her voice broke. "I'll stop the reviews. I'll delete everything. I'll apologize to everyone. You'll stop because there are consequences, not because you understand what you did was wrong." "I do understand. I see it now." "Do you? Can you explain to me why what you did was harmful?" She hesitated. "Because you didn't like it. Because you treated me like a performance improvement project and broadcast my failures to your social network. Because you saw nothing wrong with rating my worth as a partner on a 10-point scale. Because when I objected, you told me I was the problem. I was wrong about all of that. I swear I understand now. We can go to counseling," she begged. "We can work on this. For years of marriage. Doesn't that mean anything?" "It means everything. That's why this hurts. You spent 3 weeks reducing those 4 years to a spreadsheet of my failures. One mistake. I made one mistake. You made a choice. You chose to document my shortcomings. You chose to share them publicly. You chose to build a social media presence around being the woman who manages her incompetent husband. Every single one of those was a choice. What about your choices? You're choosing to throw away our marriage. I'm choosing to protect myself from someone who's shown me that my dignity matters less than her optimization project." She grabbed my arm. "Please don't do this. Please. I love you." I pulled away gently. People who love each other don't score each other's worth on a daily basis. I picked up my keys. She followed me to the door. "Where are you going?" "I have a hotel room until we figure out living arrangements. My attorney will contact you next week." You've been planning this since Monday. Since Monday morning. While I was trying to make us better, I was realizing that better to you meant a higher scoring version of me, not an actual partnership. Her voice got desperate. "What do you want me to say?" "Nothing. There's nothing you can say that changes what you did. You showed me exactly who you are when you think you're helping. I believe you." I opened the door. She stood there, still holding the papers. This is insane. People don't get divorced over performance reviews. I turned to look at her one last time. You're right. They get divorced when one person forgets the other isn't an employee to evaluate, but a partner to respect. I left her standing in the doorway of our house in Zilker, genuinely shocked that there were consequences to her actions. The hotel room in South Austin was quiet. No notes on the pillow rating my daily performance. Just silence and space to think. Monday morning, Whitney started texting. 14 messages throughout the day. I'm so sorry. This is an overreaction. We can fix this. You're being cruel. I deleted everything. My friends think you're being unreasonable. Wednesday evening that week, while Whitney was at dinner with Melissa, I went back to the house to pick up some clothes. I shouldn't have looked, but I opened her desk drawer. Inside was a folder labeled Marriage Success Plan Phase 2. I opened it. Phase 2 was scheduled to begin in April. It included new categories for evaluation: financial responsibility, social performance, physical fitness, career ambition. There were blank templates ready to go. She'd been planning to expand the system. There was also a draft blog post. The title was How Performance Management Saved My Marriage, a framework for other women. She'd written 3 pages about her methodology, about how resistance is normal, about how consistency yields results, about how husbands, like any team members, need clear expectations and regular feedback. I took photos of everything, put the folder back exactly as I'd found it, left the house feeling like I'd dodged something much worse than what had already happened. Tuesday, she sent an email. The subject line made my stomach turn. Final performance review. I opened it. She'd written a review of our marriage from her perspective, rating me 2 out of 10 across all categories. Loyalty, 1 out of 10. Communication, 2 out of 10. Partnership, 0 out of 10. The email ended with, "See how it feels?" I forwarded it to Margaret with the subject line, "More evidence." Brandon texted me that afternoon. "Hey man, Rachel told me what's happening. That performance review thing was weird. You doing okay?" "Getting there," I replied. "For what it's worth, the guys and I talked about it after you left that night. We all felt uncomfortable. If you need anything, let me know." Over the next few weeks, I heard through mutual friends that Whitney was telling everyone I'd abandoned our marriage over one disagreement about communication styles. She posted on social media, "Going through a difficult time. Sometimes you realize the person you married isn't who you thought they were. Sending love to everyone who's supported me." The comments filled with support from people who didn't know the full story. Then Rachel commented, "Sending you love. You deserve someone who appreciates your efforts to improve things." Brandon replied to his wife's comment, "We should probably talk about what efforts to improve things means in this context." Amanda, who'd been at the game night, posted, "Wait, isn't this the same marriage where you were doing those performance reviews?" Whitney deleted the entire post within an hour. A few days later, someone posted photos of pages from Whitney's binder to a local Austin Reddit forum. The caption asked, "Is this normal relationship behavior, or am I taking crazy pills?" The thread exploded. Hundreds of comments in hours. "This is controlling and toxic. Imagine if genders were reversed. I use this system at work for actual employees and would never use it on a partner." Whitney found the thread and tried to defend herself. "This was taken out of context. I was trying to save my marriage." Someone replied, "By grading your husband like homework?" The screenshots of her tweets about managing husbands started circulating. Her engagement dropped. People commented on old posts. "This aged poorly. Did your husband know you were tweeting about managing him?" She made her accounts private. Too late. Screenshots live forever. I heard from a mutual acquaintance who worked at Whitney's company. They'd seen the Reddit thread. Word had spread around her office. People started noticing how she talked about everyone in metrics and performance language, how she sent feedback emails to coworkers about personal interactions. Her manager had a quiet conversation with her about maintaining appropriate boundaries between management frameworks and interpersonal relationships. She left that job 2 months later. 4 months after I left, we signed the final divorce papers at a mediator's office on West 6th Street. It was the first time I'd seen Whitney in person since that night. She looked different, tired, thinner. As we finished signing, she tried one more time. "I really did love you. I believe you loved the version of me you were trying to create. That's not fair. You gave me a 5.7 out of 10. In what version of love is your partner a failing grade?" The mediator cleared his throat. If we can just sign here. In the parking garage afterward, Whitney stopped me. I see it now. What I did. I turned you into a project. I appreciate you saying that. Does it change anything? It changes that you might not do it to the next person. But it doesn't change what you did to me. She looked down. I'm in therapy, working on understanding why I need to control things. I hope that helps you. Do you hate me? No. I just can't be married to someone who sees me as a problem to solve. We parted ways for the final time as spouses. 10 months after everything fell apart, I was living in an apartment in East Austin. Smaller than the house, but entirely mine. No performance reviews. No daily ratings. No one scoring how well I existed. Brandon invited me to their regular poker night. The guys from game night had become actual friends. You know what's weird? Brandon said during a break. After your divorce, Rachel and I actually talked about how we communicate. Like really talked. Not in a scary evaluation way. Just honest conversation. Another friend nodded. Your situation made me realize how often Amanda makes comments about training me. I never noticed it before. Are we doing therapy via poker night? Someone joked. Little bit, Brandon admitted. Through mutual friends, I heard that Whitney was dating someone new. She'd lasted 3 months at her company before taking a job elsewhere. She was still in therapy. She'd deleted all her social media accounts. One friend told me. She asked if you were happy. I said you seemed lighter. She said that's good and changed the subject. I got a message from someone I didn't know. Hi. This is awkward, but I saw the Reddit thread about the performance review marriage. I was dating someone who was doing something similar to me. Not as extreme, but constantly offering feedback on everything I did. I thought it was normal. Your story made me realize it wasn't. I ended that relationship. Thank you. I didn't respond, but I saved the message. I ran into Rachel at a coffee shop on South Congress one Saturday morning. I owe you an apology, she said. I laughed that night. I shouldn't have. You didn't know the context. I should have known it was wrong without context. Grading your partner isn't funny. It's dehumanizing. I appreciate you saying that. How are you doing? Better than I've been in years. She studied my face. You seem different. More present. I spent so long being evaluated that I forgot what it felt like to just exist without being scored. Later that day, I sat on my balcony overlooking the city. Saturday morning. Coffee in hand. No one rating whether I was doing Saturday correctly. My phone buzzed. A text from someone I'd started seeing. Good morning. Hope you slept well. Not a performance review. Not a rating. Just simple kindness. Some people had asked me if I overreacted. If ending a 4-year marriage over feedback was extreme. I thought about that question often. The answer was always the same. Whitney hadn't given me feedback. She'd created a system where my worth as a partner was quantified, documented, and shared. Where my value was a number out of 10. Where my failures were tracked more carefully than my successes. You can't build a partnership on performance metrics. You can't love someone you're constantly evaluating. Whitney had wanted to optimize our marriage. To improve me. To create the perfect husband through accountability and measurement. Instead, she'd revealed that she saw me as an employee who needed management, not a partner who deserved respect. She'd wanted to make me better. She'd made me free instead. Looking back, I understood what I hadn't understood that Saturday night when she pulled out the binder. The problem wasn't that she'd noticed my shortcomings. All partners notice each other's flaws. The problem was that she believed those shortcomings were hers to document, grade, and broadcast. That my worth could be calculated and found wanting. That marriage was a performance to be evaluated rather than a partnership to be nurtured. Whitney had done me a favor the night she revealed her review system to 8 shocked witnesses. She'd shown me exactly who she was. Someone who would never see me as enough because there was always a higher score to achieve. Someone who loved the project of improvement more than the person being improved. She'd wanted to make me a perfect husband through measurement and management. Instead, she taught me that the best thing you can do for yourself is refuse to be graded on your worth by someone who sees you as a score instead of a soul. And sometimes, the most important performance review you can give is knowing when to walk away. Dear listeners, that's our ending. If it resonated, subscribe to support the channel. See you next time.